So we are live now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We extremely apologize for the delay. There's some technical errors that is going on in the backend. Inshallah, we should be starting in another 2 minutes, inshallah. Please stay tuned. Inshallah, it's a very beneficial webinar. And we're hoping you have a lot of takeaways for this. So we just would like to request you to hold on for another 2 minutes. Inshallah, it will be sorted. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to one and all of you present here. We apologize for the delay, technical delays, but we believe every thing happens for khair. So alhamdulillah, here we are. A very hearty, warm welcome to each one of you for an enriching webinar on healing from trauma, understanding the effects. Our founder and director, Sheikh Abdul Salam Al-Madani, says, and I quote, "We stand for integrity and unity of the Muslim Ummah according to the Quran and Sunnah. We aim to produce a generation which is well versed in Islamic studies as well as aware of the modern requirement of the Muslim Ummah. I am of the firm belief that progress is possible only if men and women are equally well educated. I unquote. These are some of the primary courses that we offer at Aspire. A lot of our courses are accredited by UGC and NCAET. The courses that we offer include BA and MA in Islamic Studies, BBA integrated with Islamic Studies, and we also have BSc in Psychology alongside Islamic Studies. Now, besides these courses, all of these courses are internationally and nationally accredited. We have all of our courses, including the diploma programs, accredited by National Council for Accreditation of Education and Therapies, which is recognized by the Government of India. And we also have it accredited by Tamil Nadu Open University, which is a university established by Government of India. These are some of the other courses that we offer here at Aspire. They include Masters in Islamic Studies in English language, certificate course in Tajweed, Fiqh, Hadith, Aqidah, Islamic Finance, Inheritance, and Zakah. Alhamdulillah, we have students from 15 plus countries who choose to study at Aspire, and Alhamdulillah, all of them are serving the community in different dimensions. Now, why is it that we need psychology from an Islamic prism? Now, Islamic psychology is a philosophical study of the psyche or the mind from an Islamic perspective. The Quran presents a view of the human as an inherently spiritual creature, a creature naturally disposed to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, discounting on the divine element from the study of human behavior is a historically fallacy. Now, this renders the study of psychology from the Western perspective extremely dangerous and misleading. Now, we at Aspire offer psychology from the prism of Islam alongside a lot of other Islamic subjects that we offer here. Alhamdulillah, these are some of the strong elements that we teach you here at Aspire, especially all the courses that we offer through Aspire in the field of psychology. We emphasize on having strong belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the principles of Iman, how to be able to control your anger, and how a Muslim meditates, and how to be able to control the effects of jinns, magic, and shaitan. Now, all of your diplomas in Islamic psychology, which is likely to begin, inshallah, on the 9th of February, we have a faculty session in there where you will be studying in detail on all of the subjects that we offer here at Aspire in the diploma in Islamic psychology, which is a 5 to 6 month course. And subhanallah, we've had so many batches that we have had here, and which is complete online, especially for the working women and young girls out there who are passionate about the field. So we have a batch starting from the next week, inshallah. So it's a pleasure to be invited as a speaker for today's event on healing from trauma, understanding the effects. Okay, so these are some of the qualifications we have that your guide will be able to assist you with. So inshallah, I'll start. Okay, so I'm truly honored to have all of you here today joining us on this webinar on healing from trauma, understanding the effects. Now, psychology as such was a field that didn't receive a lot of recognition back then. And I feel this is something that each one of you should pay special attention. Yes, so we all know psychology as such was a field that didn't receive a lot of recognition, and also not neglecting the fact that we still have miles to go for this field to receive the importance that it deserves. Now, from the little awareness that we have about this field, This little awareness has led to a lot of people self-diagnosing themselves. Yes, so one thing we all do when it comes to any symptom, not just trauma, not just the topic that we are discussing today, anytime that comes to mental illnesses or any disorders or any symptoms that we acknowledge that we call to be abnormal, we look out and we rely on Dr. Google. Yes, for what? Dr. Google for comfort that whatever is going on isn't a major problem. So for us to confirm in the fact that all of the symptoms that we are experiencing aren't really problematic, we eventually, what do? We end up going in and relying on the search engine. Little do we know that this has the opposite effect. Now, if I were to tell you that about 74% of the people become stressed because of their search engine, this is based on authentic recent research. Yes, the kind of stress which is baseless, the kind of stress which probably could not have existed if we were not to rely on our Dr. Google. Yes, so the very first step should be to be able to contact your healthcare provider, to ask for their advice, set up an appointment, because after all, they've done years of learning and they've become experts for a reason. Yes, they're licensed professionals who are able to diagnose and able to properly treat us. They are the ones who hold the authority to be able to diagnose if we're suffering from any kind of mental disorders. Now, out of nowhere, having a webinar on trauma, why am I here psychoeducating you all on self-diagnosing? Well, it is so that you don't end up believing something that you are not suffering from. Yes, as simple as that, especially on the topic that we are going to be exploring today. Right? So we are used to use all of the disorders and all of the mental health conditions as adjectives. Oh, I'm suffering from depression. Oh, I have traumatic experiences. Oh my God, it was a very bad day. I had a very, literally, I'm going to carry this trauma forever. We use all of these little words. I'm suffering from OCD. I'm so obsessed about keeping my stuff clean. So I think I'm obsessed. I'm suffering from OCD. So we are so used to use mental disorders and as adjectives, right? So it is just so that we are not convincing ourselves that we are suffering from something that we are not literally suffering from, right? So there comes the first topic of today's webinar. What exactly is trauma? Yes. Now, before we go into how do we heal from trauma, what are the effects of trauma, we need to know what exactly is trauma for us to be clear that this is what you're experiencing. If you're here on this webinar, then it is highly because some part of you felt you needed to heal from. Something that you've been through either in your past or still happening that you think that you call trauma. Now, what we're going to do in the first 15 minutes is to just realize if what we call as trauma, is it really trauma? Yes. Now, what is trauma? Trauma is any type of distressing event or any kind of an experience that can have an impact on your ability to cope, on your ability to function. Now, trauma is a result of any negative event that could have happened in your life. And this occurs when you feel emotionally or mentally hurt by something that has happened. And that can in turn lead to PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, however, not all the people will develop post-traumatic stress disorder, what we call as PTSD, after a traumatic event. Yes, some people might not develop PTSD as well, but they may still experience PTSD-like symptoms, that especially immediately after the traumatic event has occurred. Yes, so a lot of these symptoms are actually common reactions to a traumatic event. Now, this is something that is very, very important for each one of you to know. That trauma isn't the event. Trauma isn't the experience itself. Rather, it is your body and mind's response to it. And it's very important for you to know this because if it was the event, we do not have any control over what has gone by. We cannot change it all as well. Can we? Yes. If trauma indicated all of the kind of abuse or any kind of sexual molestation or any kind of domestic violence or any kind of traumatic experience, loss of a death in a loved one, any such event, if trauma indicated the event or the experience, then there's literally nothing we could do about it. But when we use the term trauma, trauma indicates our response to what happened, to the event, to the experience. Yes, because when it's with the response, that's where the good news lies. When it is with our response, we have complete control over it. Yes. Now, there are various different categories of trauma, right? So, and it can come into various different forms. Traumas can come in different shapes, but there are certain experiences which makes it either acute or chronic or complex. Yes. So we have the first type, which is acute. These acute are the types of traumas that usually kind of like, for a limited duration, the one-time events whose duration has been very limited. So it just happened at one point in your life, sometime in your childhood, or sometime when you were in your adulthood, sometime in one part of your life, it just happened. So if it is that kind of a trauma, we call it acute. The next type that we have is chronic. Chronic trauma is a type of trauma which is long lasting, which is ongoing. Yes, so that is what we refer to as chronic. Now, there are other complicated, complex type of traumas, like the kind of traumas that you do not literally, nothing happened to you, nobody intended to harm you, you didn't intend to put yourself through that harm, but then sometimes some natural processes lead us to developing traumatic experiencing. What kind of what is the complex type of traumas? Includes birth, childbirth, includes a kind of emotions and the kind of experiences that you have after a surgery. All of this is only for your healing, but these kind of life experiences, life changing life experiences, can result in trauma. Yes, I'm sure if you've been through your childbirth, yes, now this is a kind of traumatic experience that you've been through, not knowing what kind of the delivery that you're going to opt that's going to come your way, and having gone through so much of pain and having to be there, not receiving the recognition that you deserve, because after the childbirth the entire attention gets divided even from your own husband. Yes, so the love gets shared between you and your child, and everybody who comes in there, they don't acknowledge the trouble, they don't acknowledge all of what the woman has gone through. They are all happy on the newborn baby. So this experience of having gone through so much of pain only to get another human out can also be traumatic. Yes, so there are so many different types of traumas like these, and it can occur for a number of reasons. Yes, and if we call trauma, it is usually spoken about in terms of big life altering, or the sudden death of a loved one, or some kind of a natural disaster that people have been through. It's only in those terms that people call as traumatic, when the reality is that trauma comes in various different shapes, various different forms, and various different sizes. Yes. Now, although all of these big events can be traumatic for you, little events can be traumatic too. And that is what requires acceptance. There are two big types of, categories of trauma. The first one is what we refer to as big T trauma. The next one is the little t trauma. Now, the main difference between the big T and the little t trauma, according to the standard definitions raised by the APA and the other qualified institutions, is that it is an event that catalyzes the traumatic response. Now, big T trauma, like I just told you, relates to any kind of life-threatening event or a situation. It could be a natural disaster, it could be a violent, it could be a crime, it could be a school shooting, Could be a serious car accident. It could be anything. A big event. That's called the big T. Yes. Now, little t trauma refers to those events that typically don't involve these such kind of intense violence, intense disasters, but somewhere they do create significant amount of distress. Yes. So it could be losing somebody who you losing a friendship. Yes, in terms of betrayal, or sometimes even the death of a pet. Yes, not forgetting the kind of trends it is to have pets in your house and then to lose it, losing a job, getting bullied, being rejected by your group of friends. Yes, so although all of these don't really threaten the physical safety, they can produce the same traumatic responses in all of us, be it as adults or be it in children. Just as how the big T trauma does, even the little things that affect us too much, way too much, can produce literally the same emotional harm that the big T does. Yes, so the little T traumas are the kind of traumas that we usually end up self-diagnosing, right? Or a lot of times they go unnoticed. We don't even know we've been through it, and that is exactly why we're behaving the way we're behaving. Yes, it could be an ongoing situation that's causing you distress, an ongoing situation that's causing you fear, or the kind of sense of being helpless sometimes. All of that could be equally traumatic as well. And it can have serious mental, physical, and emotional impact on the young people out there, especially on the young people. Yes. And if I were to tell you that these traumatic experiences produces a lot of traumatic stress, which in turn, as per the study, says is high element of risk of suicide. And not just suicide, it can also result in anxiety, depression, a lot of co-occurring issues. Yes, like eating disorder, substance abuse. So we need to be able to acknowledge the first step, that yes, these experiences have been traumatic for me. Yes. Now, a lot of people do recover from these kind of traumas. They do not have any lasting effects. However, there are a lot of people who do develop long-term mental, emotional, or any kind of physical issues. Right? So it is said that a lot of people, majority of the people here, have experienced traumatic experiences at least once in their life. Right? And we do agree to it in a lot of times based on the experiences that you have had either as a child or as an adult. In terms of it comes in different forms, it comes in different shapes, like I told you. Yes, because throughout our lives, we experience tons of little things, tons of tiny things that keep happening. Yes, and because of that, the small repeated trauma, the same wounds get triggered, it gets rubbed way too many times. And a lot of times it can take someone else pointing out this kind of trauma that you are suffering from for you to even start realizing the impact that it has had on you. You might not even be aware that this little incidents that you have been repeatedly exposed to has turned my personality into this kind, has changed the way I think, has changed the way I feel things. So we must be aware of the fact that these traumatic experiences do have long lasting effects. Yes. Now comes the major part of, is a trauma that you are experiencing. Now, these are some of the symptoms that we have. What are some of the symptoms? You might experience denial or fear, anger, numbness, shame, restlessness. You might experience trouble sleeping, anxiety, depression. Now, the root cause of all of these could be those traumatic experiences. If you're going to deal with anger, fear, shame, you're only healing superficially. The internal wound is still there. That's like you have an internal wound, but all you're worried about is if it does it look like I have wounds all over. So if you're only going to care about the superficial part of it, then no, it isn't going to be healed completely at all. Now, furthermore, we have irritability, hopelessness, fatigue, headaches, feelings of guilt. They do have a lot of digestive issues. Like I told you, physical health and mental health is always correlated. Yes. So anytime you develop a lot of mental illness, any kind of mental health issue symptoms, you are likely to experience physiological health conditions too. Then you might have sweating, panic attacks, racing heart, feeling jumpy. All of these are some of the symptoms of trauma. Yes. So now if you could ask me what is a normal symptom versus what is an abnormal symptom of trauma, that's a very difficult question to answer. Because each of our response to the traumatic event is very different. Yes. Each of our flashes to those haunting memories and how we react is very different. So all of these may occur immediately after the traumatic event. Yes. Or it can continue to exist for a portion of time. All right. So furthermore, I'll tell you when is it that we actually call something as a traumatic experience only, and when do we differentiate and say, no, I think this is going to lead you to PTSD, and I think these are kind of the symptoms that you need to point out for. So you need to stay tuned because we have a lot of it coming. Okay. Now, what and how do we react to the traumatic experiences? Right. So how do we react? First, we kind of develop these intrusive thoughts and memories. Now, after a traumatic event, it is common to experience some form of intrusive thoughts, some kind of intrusive memories of the traumatic event. Yes. Now, this can happen mainly if you were to encounter something, say a person that's related to, that reminds you of the trauma, or the place that reminds you of a trauma, or any such things that's around you that reminds you of this person or of that particular event that happened. Then you're likely to develop intrusive thoughts and memories about the traumatic experiences. Yes. Then becoming overly conscious of your surroundings. Now it is very natural to feel more on guard and aware of your feelings. We do, because we do emphasize that on the field of psychology. We do emphasize on mindfulness, being into the moment, being focusing on the here and now. We do emphasize on mindfulness, but then the fact that you get to be overly conscious in your surrounding is actually not a very normal symptom. Yes. However, this could be a protective symptom of your body's attempt to just let you become more aware of any potential sources that are around you that can harm you in any way. But extremely becoming conscious about it does not really point right. Yes, because this is going to be extremely sensitive. You're going to threaten your own safety here. You're not gonna feel safe at all. The next one that we have is fear and anxiety. Yes, what kind of fear and anxiety could we develop immediately post the traumatic event? The kind of fear and anxiety that tells us that there's something wrong. There's some kind of danger that's present around us. And all the bodily sensations that go along with the fear and anxiety. Yes. Now, what is happening? They are just preparing us to the flee, the freeze, or to the fight response. Now, our body's alarm system is going to become more and more sensitive because we experience something that was unexpected. We experience something that was least expected. And as a result of that, your body is going to become extra conscious of everything that's around you. So any kind of things that you find to be not so okay, you're going to immediately respond to it because you're going to be overly sensitive. There's going to be fear. Have you had these kind of people who the moment you just keep your hand, or the moment you call out their name, they'll just look at you with jerk. You're like, yes. Like you literally threatened them, you literally shocked them when your presence there was something very normal, which was something very usual. This kind of jerks, this kind of anxiety that they experience for every little thing, this kind of fear that you experience for every little thing, yes, could possibly be one of the reaction to trauma that you have experienced. Right? Now, another one, feeling unsafe. Right? No, after any kind of traumatic event that you've been through, the assumption that the world we're living in is not a safe place for us, is not a secure place for us, becomes a part of us. The belief that the world is actually a good place, that belief gets shattered so badly. Right? So people usually start to believe like there's some kind of a potential danger around. Places or situations that you felt extremely secure or that you felt extremely cool may now feel threatening, may now start giving you a lot of anxiety. Yes? Now, this is especially likely to occur in situations or places that remind you of these traumatic events. The moment there's something like the kind of the place that you, that you experienced whilst undergoing this traumatic experience, can make you feel extremely unsafe. Yes? Say for instance you were probably some kind of an event happened in this particular kind of a place that looked like a mall, so immediately the very sight of mall can start giving you a lot of anxiety provoking symptoms. You can start sweating, it can be physiological, it can be emotional as well. Yes, so feelings of unsafe start to occur. You start doubting the world, you start doubting yourself, and eventually you don't know where is the difference. Is it me or is it somebody else? Yes, it happened from an external event. You as when time goes, you start internalizing it and you think something is wrong with you. You had to go through it all because something was wrong with you. So this kind of the difference starts diminishing. From something happened to me, it will slowly turn to I deserve this to happen. It was supposed to happen with me. Probably because I am, you fill in the sentences, as many sentences as mostly it's all negative. Yes, so basically you start feeling unsafe with your surrounding, with your people, even those people and those places that you once felt secure in. Yes, so now what is the normal difference between the normal trauma response and PTSD? Now we did do some of the symptoms that usually occur in a traumatic events. Yes, so although those symptoms can be distressing, for normal trauma, the symptoms are distressing, but they are not severe. They're not intense than the kind of symptoms that we see in PTSD. Okay, now that's one major difference. Yes, the second the most efficient difference ever found in the normal trauma and PTSD is that PTSD cannot be diagnosed until at least 30 days after the traumatic event has occurred. Yes, because a lot of PTSD like symptoms are actually part of your body's natural response to a traumatic event. And for a lot of people, the symptoms gradually reduce over time. Right? So, when do you know you cannot diagnose yourself with PTSD? Immediately after a traumatic event has occurred. Right? If the effect of it continues to exist for every day, like say for instance, even for at least consistently for about 30 days, then you go in for the symptoms and check the severity. And if the severity is actually higher, then you get diagnosed for PTSD. Otherwise, those are normal traumas, which we also refer to as small t traumas, the little t. All right. Now comes the most important part of today's webinar, which is what are the symptoms that you need to watch for? Yes. When do you know that you have a sign that you can be at risk for developing PTSD? So it's very important that we know it. We know these symptoms, because then you know, is it becoming worse Or is it actually leading to PTSD, or is it just minor symptoms that I'm experiencing that my body is pointing out as a direction towards healing? Okay. First one being loss of interest. Now keep an eye for any loss of interest in any activities that you once enjoyed. If you are finding yourself detached from your loved ones, if you're finding yourself isolated, if you are finding yourself, not being interested, disinterested in all of those things that you once enjoyed doing, then this is one of the main symptoms to watch for. Because usually the direction it takes is you're likely to develop depression in there. Yes, because you start to isolate yourselves and you don't want in people, you don't want any kind of support. It's like you want it, but then you don't want it. So the very first symptom, when you know as to if your trauma is disturbing you, is when you're watching out if you are losing interest in a lot of things. Then avoidance. After those traumatic events, very common for us to avoid certain situations, avoid activities, or avoid people, right? But you must pay attention to these avoidance behaviors, because they kind of reinforce the belief that the world is not a safe place. And once you have this belief that the world around me is not a safe place, then it only lead to worsening of the normal traumatic symptoms, which is for PTSD. Right? Now, the third important one is unhealthy coping behaviors. Now, just as we avoid a lot of activity or situations or people because we assume that they are problematic, yes, we kind of also avoid thoughts, our feelings, feeling a particular way, thinking a particular way, right? We usually end up developing a lot of unhealthy coping behaviors after a traumatic event. Yes, usually one common thing that I think we all know about is the substance abuse. Yes, you start taking in a lot of substances in order to avoid or getting rid of these symptoms. Although it's only short-term situation, and in the long run, it can cause your feelings and thoughts to become more intense. So you're thinking, me doing this would make me to get distracted at the moment, would make me to not feel those emotions and thoughts to a larger degree, more intensely, but we never know. Yes, we never know. Now, how do we cope with these traumatic experiences that we have had? Yes, like I told you, it can take any different form. It can come to us in any different forms. It could be as a result of an abuse, as a death of a loved one. People have undergone divorce, family or parental abandonment, say little wrong parenting, or you had a loss of job that was very, very important for you, or any kind of natural disasters or wars. Yes, any kind of severe physical injury. Yes, not forgetting that a lot of physical injuries do affect our self-esteem, because when we kind of dependent or physically on somebody, then it does impact our mental health as well. Okay, any kind of violence or rape, or say not just undergoing an accident, even witnessing a crime or an accident or a death of somebody, some stranger, could be traumatic. Yes, so it can come to us in any different forms. Now, after experiencing this traumatic event, it is very, very important for us to put into healthy coping strategies that can help us to heal from the traumatic experiences that we've had. Now, some of the things that you can do to help yourself process that kind of trauma and to cope with trauma. These are the two words that I would use when it comes to trauma, when it comes to healing trauma. One, process your emotions, then develop healthy coping mechanisms. Yes, now that's exactly what we are going to be studying here, what we are going to be learning here in the last part of our webinar, which is the most significant of the entire webinar that we've been having so far. The first one is validating your feelings. Yes. Now, all of these things only help you process and cope with your trauma better. How do we process and cope with the trauma? First, we validate feelings. We help you as therapists. We help you validate your feelings. We have a lot of trauma therapists. I'll tell you on how do you go about, in case you feel that you really need help from a qualified professional. How do you go about? I'll let you know of that as well. First thing we can do ourselves is to validate our feelings. Now, you don't have to force yourself to talk to others about how you feel. Yes. However, it is very important that you don't try to push away your feelings and that you start validating your feelings. Right? Then give yourself time to deal with what you're feeling. Now, don't expect all of these feelings to go away overnight because it is impossible. It's impossible that all of these just go away one fine night. You wake up one day and they're just not there anymore. It's impossible. Literally impossible. Yes, they could have taken a very short period of your time in the past, but they might take a longest of time to go. Right? Be patient. Take it easy on yourself. Now, next, face it. Yes, as tempting as it may be to try to ignore or probably like try to even forget your traumatic experience that you've had, it is what we definitely need to learn is to be okay with those memories of it. Yes, is to be okay with the things that trigger those traumatic experiences without trying to avoid them. When have you healed? When you're able to think of those traumatic experiences and they don't elicit the same kind of fear, anxiety, and leave you abnormal, that's when you know you've healed through them. Then face your feelings. Face them. There's no point running away from it because you want to be taken care of them in a way that helps you move forward. So repressing it, burying it, does not make sense. Yes? Then take care of your body. Eat a lot of nutritious food. And I cannot emphasize this enough. You might wonder what does it has to do with me eating well and me having experienced a traumatic event and I'm told to eat well. It's so very important. So very important. Your nutritious meals add a lot of quality to the work that you're doing with your mental health. Try to get as much of rest as you can. Engage in a lot of physical activity on regular basis. Get out, move. Research says that it is one of the most effective way that you handle the after effects of the traumatic event. Your deep breathing techniques, your gentle stretching, your walking, all of these the best things that you could do to deal with your traumatic experiences. Yes, have a proper exercise plan, have a diet plan, eat a certain type of food. I wouldn't say completely get on your diet after a traumatic event, no, but include a lot of your healthy stuff in your meal. However, at the same time, I'll repeat, don't force things. If you're tired, it's okay to rest. If you're not able to, it's okay for you to let go of it today and try again tomorrow. Then do a lot of self-care because that kind of reduces stress and equally does make us feel good too. Yes, that's what self-care is all about. Practice a lot of self-care. Yes, as in when you're trying to heal, as in when you're on that healing journey, as much as possible, do a lot of self-care and regularly take action to do those things that make you feel good, that makes you feel loved. Now, these self-care could be as simple and as mundane, or it could even be free. As simple as mundane as taking a bath. What matters is that you set aside time to take care of yourself. Now, as you do things that make you feel loved, cared for, do it all to a lot to yourself. Yes, you might get it from the outside. You might, have it from the people, from your loved ones. But at the same time, emphasize on the fact that you also do a lot to yourself. One best form of self-care is to submit yourself to our Rabb. That's the best form of self-care. You go to your sujood, cry your heart out, put your entire worries of your mind in there. You wake up, you wake up. It's impossible that you wake up the same way again. Yes, the pre and post effects, you can literally see it. The kind of what you feel emotionally after you've submitted yourself, after you've given it all to your Rabb and told Allah, you take care. You take care. This is disturbing me. You take care. Yes, it's the best form of self-care that we could give to ourselves. Allow yourself to shed a lot of tears in front of your Rabb, especially in the most sensitive period, especially in the times that we are encouraged to do, like the Hajjud. Wake up, cry to your Rabb, talk to Allah. The kind of security that you feel, that there's something that's protecting you, there's something that you feel secure within, has to come from there. Yes, although we might feel that the world is an unsafe place to live and people are very unsafe, the safest of the place, even if you're feeling the safest, is always with our Rabb. Yes, so do a lot of self-care, spend a lot of quality time with your friends and family. Now, even though you might feel like being alone, isolating yourself, and just being with yourself in your own company can make you feel actually okay. You might feel like, you know what, it's actually making me feel good. Know that it'll be extremely difficult for you to deal with the effects much later if you're going to be all by yourself. So allow yourself to lean on people who care about you, who support you, and have like a proper regular routine, have a schedule. Yes, now having this kind of a routine and schedule helps us actually have a kind of life. Otherwise, every time, every single time, every single part of the day, you need to wake up and then decide something for yourself and then decide what you need to do. There's so much of cognitive work that's happening. Now, it's easier when you have a scheduled day. This time I'm going to eat, this time I'm going to take bath, this time I'm going to sleep. So every day you're going to do that. Right? So it's not going to be like every day I'm going to involve myself in the decision making process. So it's easier for you. It's not a must, but the effects are amazing if you do it. Yes. So know that you sticking to this kind of a routine won't literally take away the kind of anxiety that you are experiencing, but it can help a lot with the sources of anxiety in your life. Yes, that's why it is important for you to take care and spend a lot of time with your family and friends. It is okay for you to rely on them for any kind of love, any kind of support that you might need. Yes, Allah bless them for a reason. Allah made them as your family and friends for a reason. And it's always okay to seek out that love from our significant people around us, the primary sources of love and support. Then, being the next one, which is accepting the kind of support. Man, of very first and foremost, getting past trauma is to want to heal and to be willing to accept the help and support that you're being provided with. Yes, now it might turn out like this kind of a healing journey actually kind of occurs alone, but it does involve a lot of people around you. Yes, sometimes you take an individual therapy. Sometimes you do take in help that people around you are willing to offer you. And sometimes it is nice if you don't literally uh, label it as, what do you call that? Sympathy. No, I don't want sympathy. I think I'll handle it all by myself. No, we do learn to lean on people. Yes, that is what the seerah tells us. When Prophet ﷺ experienced that kind of a feeling, yes, what did he do? He ran to his wife. He ran to his wife. We will always be dependent on people. We don't exist all by ourselves. We are not sufficient. I am not enough. No, those are not the kind of statements that we say. I am not enough. I don't need people. I can love myself. I can also love myself. That means I also need it from other sources, right? I am enough is not a right statement to make. So you, in this journey of healing, you will need support, you will need your loved ones, and whichever route that you take, whether you're going in for individual therapy or you're just going in on a recovery all by yourself, by change of a lifestyle, then you need to be at a space where you accept a lot of support. You might receive support from your loved ones, or simply from your therapist, from your friends, from your colleagues, or whoever knows, whoever you have felt comfortable sharing this, or whoever knows about the kind of trauma that you've experienced. If they are giving you support, take it. Yes. So, what does it teach you? It gets you into the mindset where you understand that others may likely to be able to help you, and you are willing to take that help. And that kind of a mindset makes the world a better place in our head. We think, okay, there are people, there are nice people in this world willing to offer help, and I am here willing to take that help too. Then find the right kind of help. Yes, you'll want the right type of help for your traumatic experiences. It could be looking out for a trauma informed therapist who would actually love to work with to heal from your past traumas. Or it could just be you changing your lifestyle. It could be you sharing with your trusted person in order to help you get through it yourself. You can adopt any of the techniques that I've just mentioned, or the ones that are amazing ones that are coming your way as well. Let you decide based on the intensity and based on how much it is affecting you. If the effect is much harder and larger, then you must be willing to take the professional help. But if you think it's the little t trauma and I think I can manage it, at least for a period of time, then you do it efficiently. Yes, not all kinds of traumas does require mental health support. Yes, but overestimating that you will do it all by yourself does not help either. And then take a lot of breaks. Now also know that there's literally no time stamp on trauma. There are no fixed formulas as such that you can insert onto yourself in order to be healed. It does take time. It does take a lot of patience. And know that it's a journey. It's a journey. You will heal through it in bits and pieces. You will heal through it. Sometimes you'll feel like you've healed through it, and then randomly out of nowhere something reminds you of it and you're not stable again. It happens. Does not mean you've not healed, does not mean years of your efforts are literally gone waste. Definitely not. Yes, it is possible that you are almost healed, and at the same time there could be instances that you could be reminded of. So highly possible. So you need to take a lot of breaks. So when we're moving through healing, we need to be able to take the breaks that our body craves, that our body asks. You might feel like you literally need a lot of physical energy. Or, sometimes you'll feel extremely tired, or you might feel extremely enthusiastic as well. Yes, know that healing literally takes a lot of energy. And the best way that we could deal with this kind of a reduced energy during this time, be it physical or be it mental, is to be gentle with ourselves. Taking a lot of breaks, even if it is from doing fun things or pausing, giving yourself a moment, will only keep your energy up and ensure that you're not exhausted. Yes? Now, before we wrap, the last part of today's webinar will consist of that one therapeutic activity that I usually recommend to a lot of my clients, been through the little T's or even the big T's. Yes. Now that's one major takeaway from today's webinar, because this is one of the easiest technique. But if you were to just simply be there, even if you feel, no, I don't think I have experienced any kind of a traumatic event, but I simply want to sit there and become aware, it kind of makes you feel so good. Kind of takes you away from whatever it is that you're experiencing. Yes, so I'm going to be revealing that one technique. But before that, these are the two questions that I almost always get asked about trauma from all of my clients, literally all of my clients who have had traumatic events in their life. Yes, and I would love answering those two questions before I before I get you to the last part of today's webinar, which is giving you that one therapeutic technique. Yes, the first question is, can you ever completely heal from trauma? Yes, I'm sure a lot of you had that question in mind. Now, yes, it is highly possible that you fully recover from trauma and live a life that is fulfilling, that is happy. However, let me not make fake promises. It might take a lot of time. Yes. And you may not be the exact same person that you were before the experience as well. Not to threaten you, of course. But we do grow. There are potential happy, positive changes in us. That is for the betterment. Yes. So your treatment, your self-help strategies will help you to process your experiences that you've had. It'll help you develop a lot of new coping skills. This is what happens post your sessions. Yes, post the therapeutic support that you have gained. So you develop healthy coping mechanisms. You learn to process those experiences, and you're finding ways to move past the trauma and to focus on better things. Because when our focus is there, our entire energy and attention is also there. So your therapy will only help you get past that traumatic stage. Now, the second most important question that my clients almost always ask me was, how long does trauma take to heal? Well, being realistically, I do not want to keep you blindfolded. It can take time. It can take time to recover fully. Now, there are different studies that give you different numbers, but one study, that recent one, says that about 20% of people recover completely from trauma within 3 months. A minimum of 3 months it takes for you to completely get recovered. And about 27% of people who approach, this is always the people who approach in for therapy, because those are the kind of people we can get the data from. So 27% of people, they usually recover within 6 months. And 50% of the people with PTSD, especially, they recover within 2 years. Yes. Now, this same study also reported that literally out of 100 people, that is 7 out of 10 people, literally almost always fully recover from the traumatic event within a decade. Yes, completely. So you're opting in for therapy. These are the numbers that I'm giving you. Okay. So then moving to the last part of today's webinar, which is that therapeutic technique before we wrap. Yes. What is that one technique that I always give my clients, and that they always report has found to be very, very beneficial with them, is whenever one common symptom of trauma is you get zoned out easily. You're not aware. You're not onto your present. You're not aware of what's happening with you. You immediately revisiting those memories. You're going back to those events that took place with or without your permission. Yes. So the best thing you can do is to bring yourself back to the picture, back to your present again. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? We use this principle, which is called a grounding strategy. Okay. Now, we have so many grounding techniques, of which this is the most common one, which you all can also absolutely very well use. Yes, without any help of any therapist. Now, which is called, as I told you, physical grounding technique. Okay. So you just using different senses of your body and becoming aware, becoming mindful. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. Now, what does it tell you? You pick up 5 senses. Okay. Anytime you find yourself zoning out, anytime you know that I'm going to go there, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Yes, it's the best when you're closing your eyes. Yes, take a deep breath. Not teaching you mindfulness breathing technique, don't worry. Okay. So what do? You use a 5-4-3-2-1 technique. Now, what is it? Should I count? No. you would start with listing 5 things that you see around you. Yes, and likewise working your way down to 4, 3, 2, and 1. For example, 5 things that you can see. So after you've taken this deep breath, you look at 5 across, take a holistic. Don't zoom in and just look at one particular place and come on. Look ahead. Look throughout the place that you're living, that you are literally sitting in or standing in, and see what are the 5 objects that I can see, and verbalize it. Yes, tell it. I can see a cupboard. I can see my water bottle. I can see a ball. I can see a cover. I can see my phone. Okay, that's done. Once you have said that, what are the 4 things you can hear? Now, for you to become aware of what you're hearing, you need to close your eyes. As in when you keep hearing, become aware. Okay, this is one sound that I've heard. This is the second sound I've heard. This is a third sound I've heard. This is the fourth sound that I've heard. Yes, so 4 things you can hear. Then 3 things that you can touch. So literally see what your body is touching, or literally touch at 3 different things that are around you. Then 2 things that you can smell. So you literally consciously smell to check what kind of different smell. Sometimes you literally cannot smell only. That's also awareness. Yes. And then the last one thing that you can taste. Now imagine we are with all of these 5 senses are with us throughout the day. Throughout the day. How often do you become aware of what is the taste in your mouth? Unless and until it's something weird. Right? So once you're using all of these 5 senses for you to process your present, you come back. You don't zone through all of those experiences back again. You don't revisit them again. You come back to your present. Yes, so it can seem simple, but if you are somebody who gets zoned out, if somebody's pointing out something, somebody's talking about this person, and then immediately you have those memories flashing in, then just do nothing, close your eyes, take a deep breath, look at 5 things that are around you and literally tell it. Even if you can't tell it orally because there are people around you, tell it loudly in your brain. Yes, so you don't need to literally tell it out loud for people to know it, but literally look at it, pause for a second, tell this, I'm seeing this, and then go to the next object. Okay, take a holistic approach. Take a step back and zoom out, and then view 5 things that are around you. Then 4 things that you can hear. So here you need to pay attention. So what are you doing? You're preventing yourself from your symptoms getting worse and worse. So you're reducing yourself from these symptoms being prone to get you to experience PTSD. Right, so this technique is found to be one of the most effective ones for a lot of my clients. And when it comes to processing, when it comes to getting themselves to manage temporarily, to not be able to jump in and drown in that ocean, yes, it has helped them a lot, and I would definitely encourage a lot of you to do that. Yes, so these are the 2 questions I answered. If there are any questions, then I'll be more than happy to answer. Hold on. Okay. I don't see a lot of questions in here. Oh. Okay. I think there's one. What to do when it keeps happening in background whilst we're doing some or the other work? You pause that work. So that means you're not literally, it's not in the background, because if it was in the background, it wouldn't really affect you. A lot of things in the background. Yes. What you need to do tomorrow, next week's agenda, next day's agenda, where you need to go. Everything is in the background. But when do you know that it is in the background? Know that it is no more in the background. It has come back to your present. And once it affects your present, you're most likely to be dividing your energy into your traumatic event and to the present task that you're occupying yourself with. Right? So you know that you get to know it's in the background only when it's coming to the present. Immediately, it takes just a moment. I'm telling you, all of this just takes a minute. Become aware. All right? And then you start doing mindfulness. Actually helps you to focus on the present. Okay, I'm just looking out so many questions. Okay, can you tell an Islamic technique to reassure and satisfy oneself? That's exactly what we do a lot in our diploma programs, my dear sister. Yes, so we have chapters and chapters on this. So I would really love you being a part of our diploma program to experience this on a full-fledged schedule and with a lot of your Q&As accompanied, literally be there as a part of your diploma classes that's conducted live, where you ask a lot of questions, first-hand questions from qualified therapists, from qualified scholars, and you literally on there onto your healing journey, you're psychoeducating yourself and you're healing yourself, and that would mean you breaking the traumatic chain, the cycle of chain that's been existing for years and generations. Yes, does long-term PTSD cause memory issues like forgetfulness? Yes, sometimes. Yes. Yes. Is procrastinating a symptom too? Yes, it can be other. I mean, that alone cannot make you diagnose yourself as traumatic experiences. Yes, you procrastinating. Why do we procrastinate? Because we don't have sufficient energy, either mentally or physically. Yes, and that again is a symptom of some kind of traumatic experiences that you could have had. Okay. Physically feeling unfit for any activity. Okay. Must be done in order. Absolutely. You can use any of the different senses as well. You could say 5 things I can hear, 4 things I can see. You can mix in with any of the senses. But literally taste, you cannot taste multiple things at a time. So you put in taste towards the end so that you're still aware. So every time you think of this technique, you only become aware of your taste, because that's one sense we least experience unless and until you're putting it into use. So every now and then when you're cooking or when you're just loitering around here and there, or you're just sitting out there doing literally nothing, you become aware of what's the taste in my mouth. Yes, it can be a little weird, but trust me, it's one kind of self-awareness. You're focusing on the present. You're focusing on your own body. Okay. What if the grounding strategy involves increasing the fear because the things around reminding more of the trauma? Now, you do a lot of grounding technique, not when you're right there experiencing the traumatic event. Yes, or not even when you are exposing yourself to the traumatic event. Right? But if there are people, or if there's an environment that you're surrounding yourself with that's reminding you of what you've been through, yes, say you've experienced a lot of domestic violence from this particular person. All right, now there you see a person literally looking or dressed up like this kind of a person, you start to develop a lot of symptoms, although this person may or may not be living with you. So you develop a lot of symptoms. As much as possible, you're trying to get yourself outside of the place. But if that's not something you can do, you can still do the grounding technique. Yes, grounding technique is aimed at reducing your focus onto something that happened in the past, or the fear that you have that it might repeat in the future. Yes, or it can literally repeat in your future. It only helps you to focus on your present. Yes, so it is different when I say it. It is different when you experience it. So post this webinar, literally go back. I'm telling you, you didn't experience traumatic experience for you to do this. Simply become aware. Use a 4-5-3-2-1 technique, right? And do it. And you might not find, you might wonder, okay, it's not a big deal. But also experience it, if at all you were to experience any of the symptoms that we've been speaking about. Okay. Okay. I feel a lot of questions coming in, and a lot of questions are about a lot of PTSD and a lot of disorders. Now, I may not have time because we already passed the timing. I may not be able to take in a lot of your questions, but the results, the views, the reviews of the participants who have been part of our diploma programs before is a testimony of all of these live Q&As that I literally do as a part of your diploma programs as well. We have amazing faculties, and please don't forget to come back again on the 9th of February, wherein we have the faculty session on. So be there, ask a lot of your questions, ask what kind of questions will be answered, take an informed decision always. Yes, know where you're investing your money in, know what kind of knowledge you're going to be getting, know what kind of an experience you're going to be getting, and then taking an informed decision. I would always tell you that. So, in case I've left any of your question unanswered, please come back. Yes, ask any of the questions that you might have. What are all the techniques? What are all the disorders that we will be doing as a part of our diploma program? We do have a subject specially assigned to all of these chapters concerned with psychopathology, wherein we do consider a lot of disorders. We also take in the Islamic perspective of it. We give you Islamic solutions to it. So I would definitely encourage each one of you to be a part of our program. Irrespective of whether you're going to jump in right away, that's your choice. You choose, you take the decision. But I would definitely encourage you, walk in, see what we have to offer for you, and then choose if you want to be a part of our session, if you want to be a part of this transformative journey where 90% plus participants always report that it has been the life-changing period for them. Yes, it has been more of like group therapy sessions for us, where we psychoeducate, where we heal, where we together provide a platform, safe platform for us to be ourselves and to experience the kind of healing that we've forever been longing. Yes, this kind of healing does not happen only with with psychology, only with the therapeutic approaches, unless and until we bring in the Islamic component, unless and until we literally dive into this field of Islamic psychology. It is impossible. And allow me to make that claim. Allow me to make that claim. Yes, so we offer you as to how you can be the reason your own near and dear ones can be healed too. So walk in for our session. With that, we wrap our seminar with this beautiful saying uh, that is always very close to my heart every time I talk about trauma. And a lot of times, why I dived a lot of my research into this topic, and why I do take in people who've been suffering from the little t's and the big t's of traumas, is because a lot of times what happens is, this is the saying of a great psychologist who said, if you never heal from what hurt you, then you will bleed on people who did not cut you. Yes, and literally how true is that, right? So your childhood trauma can lead to a lot of adulthood that's spent in the survival mode, wherein you're afraid to plant roots, you're afraid to plan for the future, you're afraid to trust, you're afraid to let joy come into your life, let happiness come into your life. And it is indeed a blessing to shift your focus from surviving to thriving. It's not simple, but there is literally more than survival that we all could be in, that we all could literally get to be in, inshallah. Yes, so with that message, I wrap our webinar for today. Jazakallah khairan. First of all, to all of you who've been there, despite the technical delays, you've been connected, you've been interactive, you've been an amazing audience. Jazakallah khairan for staying connected towards the very end. May Allah bless each one of you who were here came here with the intention of healing yourself, healing the body that Allah blessed you with, because we all know we are going to return back to our Rabb, and we present ourselves in the best form physically and mentally on the day of judgment. Yes, so healing is sunnah. We do a lot of work. We do a lot of work within, outside, physical, mental, psychological work. And I hope Allah, I pray Allah accepts this effort from me, from the institution, and from each one of you who've been here till the very end. Jazakallah khairan for being here. And in case you feel that this is a kind of topic that you're near and dear ones who you're aware of, who experience traumatic experience, need to go through, then please forward it to them. We will definitely, I believe, have a copy of this on our a YouTube channel as well. Do not hesitate, forward this to those people who are near and dear you, who have been struggling with traumatic experiences but who couldn't join in for today's webinar, inshallah. So with that, we wrap our my talk. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.